Welcome back to the deep dive. Usually when we prep for these,
Mhm.
we're just wading through the weeds. We've got
Mhm.
100-page PDF reports, stacks of journals, massive biographies. Our job is usually finding the needle in the haystack for you.
It really is an exercise in subtraction, isn't it? We're just cutting away all the noise to get to the signal.
Exactly. But today is the complete inverse of that.
Mm.
We're looking at source material that is incredibly short. It's a narrative summary about a story called The Guilt, and specifically a text called The Silence of Survival. It's sparse, it's minimal, but honestly, it is heavy.
It is so heavy. It's dense. It's like a neutron star tiny, but with enough gravity to, crush you if you get too close.
Yeah,
It's a fascinating pivot because it shows you don't need 1,000 pages to break someone's heart or really challenge their worldview.
I read it in about 2 minutes,
Mhm.
and then I just sat there staring at the wall for like 20. It's not really a story you read. It feels like a story that reads you.
That is the perfect way to frame it. It absolutely operates as a psychological mirror.
Right.
It's designed to bypass your critical brain, the part that's like analyzing plot holes or sentence structure, and it goes straight for your conscience.
So here's our mission for today. We aren't just going to recount a plot, because frankly, there isn't much plot in the way we usually think of it.
Yo.
We're going to try to unpack the psychology of silence, this concept of moral injury,
Yeah.
and why this specific author refuses to give us the one thing we all crave from a story:
Closure.
closure.
Yeah, we're going to look at the cost of a full life when the foundation is just completely rotten. And I think we need to warn listeners. This is not a feel-good analysis. This is about the dark stuff we all try to sweep under the rug.
Let's jump in. The source material introduces us to a protagonist, but it doesn't start with the action. It starts with the result.
It's the aftermath.
Yeah, we see a man years later, and the description is almost aggressively normal. Career, marriage, a child.
It's the checklist. It's the societal template for success. But what's so fascinating is the juxtaposition. The text tells us, a young man survives a night of violence by making a single choice.
And then it immediately cuts to this picture-perfect future.
Right.
That word survives is doing so much work there. I mean, usually when we hear survivor, we think of resilience, maybe luck, someone overcoming the odds.
Sure, yes.
But here, survival is framed almost like a transaction.
By making a single choice. That implies agency. He wasn't just a leaf blowing in the wind during this violent event. He was an active participant in his own salvation.
He traded something to get out of that room.
He did, and the receipt for that transaction is his current life.
The nice house, the kid, the job. But then we get this one line, and this is the one that really got me. Nothing seems broken.
Okay, let's stop there. Because that is a masterclass in what, literary critics would call unreliable narration, even third person. Nothing seems broken.
It's the seams that just kills you. It feels like a warning label on the whole story.
It immediately triggers suspicion. If I tell you my car seems to be working fine, what's the first thing you think?
I'm thinking the engine is about to explode, or maybe the brakes are cut. Something is wrong.
Precisely. It implies a facade. It tells us that this man has become an architect of normalcy. He's built a fortress of everything is fine around himself.
That's a good way to put it.
In psychology, we often talk about high-functioning trauma. You see this with people who have compartmentalized these severe events. On the surface, the career, the marriage, they look like they're overperforming, but it's all a performance.
Because if they stop performing for even a second, they have to look at the truth. It reminds me of the uncanny valley, where something looks human but isn't quite right, and it just makes you deeply uneasy.
Yes.
His life is in the uncanny valley. It's too perfect.
And the source text confirms this right away. It says, but one memory refuses to stay buried.
That imagery is so visceral. Refuses to stay buried.
She's active.
It's not just that he's remembering it. It's this active resistance. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can do it, but it takes constant, exhausting pressure. The second you relax,
It shoots up and hits you right in the face. That is the energy cost of the lie. We tend to think of secrets as these passive things just sitting in a vault somewhere.
Yeah, but they aren't.
They're not. They're active. They are corrosive. To maintain a full life over a buried truth requires a massive caloric expenditure of emotional energy every single day.
He has to wake up and recommit to that silence every single morning.
Every morning.
You know that old saying, the cover-up is always worse than the crime?
Mm-hmm.
In this case, the cover-up is his life. His child, his marriage, they're all part of the cover-up.
Which makes him incredibly vulnerable, because if that truth ever comes out, that whole life just dissolves.
Right.
And that brings us to the nature of the crime or the incident. The source is intentionally vague here. It just mentions a night of violence.
It doesn't specify what kind. A war, a riot, a home invasion. Nothing, just violence.
Which is a brilliant tactical choice by the writer.
Why do you say that?
Well, because if they said it was a war zone in 1990 or it was a specific bank heist, you, the listener, you could distance yourself from it. You could say, well, I've never been to war. I can't relate.
Right. That's a soldier's problem, not mine.
Right.
Or that's a victim's problem.
But by just calling it violence and a choice, it becomes universal. We've all been in situations, even low-stakes ones, where we felt threatened, where we felt the, fight or flight instinct kick in.
So it forces you to slot your own fears into that blank space.
Exactly.
So let's talk about that choice. The text presents this perfect binary. It says he had to choose between two options. Risk your life for truth, or live safely with silence.
This is the absolute crux of the moral dilemma, and it's where we get into the concept of moral injury.
Okay, so define that for us. How is moral injury different from something like, say, guilt or PTSD?
So, PTSD is usually fear-based. It's a reaction to a threat to your life or your safety. Moral injury is different. It's shame-based.
Shame-based.
Yes, it happens when you perpetrate or fail to prevent, or even just witness acts that transgress your own deeply held moral beliefs. It's a betrayal of what you think is right.
It's like a spiritual wound, basically.
Yeah.
You broke your own code.
You broke your own code, exactly. And in this story, the protagonist's survival required him to inflict a moral injury on himself. He chose safety. He chose silence. And the text implies this injury can never heal because the silence just keeps the wound open.
And I think it's so easy for us, sitting here in a studio with our coffee, to say, well, that was cowardly. He should have just done the right thing.
Of course.
But the text makes a point to emphasize that he was afraid and cornered.
Right. The biological imperative to survive is the strongest force in nature. It overrides almost everything else. So the author's asking a really tough question. Is it a sin to want to live? If a gun is pointed at you and the only way to lower it is to close your eyes, is closing your eyes a crime?
But the text suggests the price of that life was way too high because of Hina.
Hina.
This is the only proper name we get in the entire summary. Who is Hina?
We don't know. And that right there is the most haunting part of this entire thing.
It is.
The source says very clearly, the writer never tells us what happened to Hina.
Which, as a reader, is just so frustrating. We are trained to expect the police report at the end of the episode.
We want the files.
We want to know, did she escape? Is she dead? Is she in prison? We want the wiki page that explains all the lore.
We want the puzzle solved so we can put the box away. We want to categorize it. Tragedy, miracle, crime.
Exactly. But the author just denies us that relief.
And this is a technique that artists call negative space. In a painting, negative space is the empty space around the subject that helps to define it.
All right.
Here, Hina is the negative space. By leaving her fate completely blank, the author forces your brain to fill in that gap. And let's be honest, the human imagination is infinitely better at conjuring horror than any writer could ever be.
So whatever I'm most afraid of,
Yeah,
that's what happened to Hina.
correct. You become a co-author of the tragedy. And think about it from the protagonist's point of view. Does he even know what happened to her?
That's the question. I mean, there are really two options, right? One,
Mm-hmm.
he saw exactly what happens. He didn't stop it. And now he has to live with that specific image burned into his retinas.
Which is horrific. That's the memory that refuses to stay buried.
Or two, and this might be worse, he ran away before he could see. He abandoned her to a completely unknown fate.
And in some ways, the unknown is worse. Because hope can be a form of torture in a situation like that. If he doesn't know, he has to wake up every single morning wondering if she's still suffering somewhere because of his silence. That's what we call ambiguous loss. There's no closure, no funeral, no end date.
That just reframes his entire full life. Every time he plays catch with his kid, every time he kisses his wife, he's doing it in a timeline that only exists because he abandoned Hina.
It renders all of his joy illegitimate. That's the guilt from the title. It's the feeling that you are a squatter in your own existence.
You don't deserve the seat at the table.
Well, you stole it.
This all connects back to that binary, truth versus safety. We're raised on movies where the hero always chooses truth. And sure, maybe they get beat up a bit, but they win in the end. They get the girl, they get the applause.
Right. They get the medal. The cinematic universe tells us that courage is always rewarded.
But here, the source suggests that truth is fatal
Yeah.
and safety is corrupt.
That is a dark worldview, but a pretty realistic one. It challenges what psychologists call the just world hypothesis, this bias where we want to believe that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people.
But this story says the bad choice cowardice was rewarded with the American dream,
It was.
which brings us to the part of the source that felt like a punch in the gut. The text just pivots. It stops talking about the guy and turns the camera directly on the reader.
Oh, yeah.
It says, the guilt doesn't give answers. It hands the question to you.
This is the moment the mirror holds up. If you were there, afraid, cornered, and forced to choose, what would you have done?
I want you to be honest with me. When you read that, what was your gut reaction? Not your I'm being recorded reaction, but your real gut reaction.
My immediate ego-driven reaction, I would have spoken up. I would have saved her.
Me too, of course. I'm the main character of my own life. I'm the hero. I'd kick the door down.
But that's what we call the hero fallacy. We judge other people by their actions, but we judge ourselves by our intentions. We assume that in a crisis, we will rise to the level of our ideals.
But we don't.
But psychology tells us we usually fall to the level of our training or just our base instincts.
And our number one instinct is self-preservation.
Exactly. The text emphasizes risk your life, not risk your job, not risk an awkward conversation, risk dying.
Right.
If there's a gun in your face or a mob at the door, are you really, truly sure you care about the truth more than you care about seeing your family again?
That's a terrifying thing to admit. But the protagonist proves that most people choose silence. Because look around. He has the career, the marriage. He's the guy next door. The story implies the world is full of people just like him.
That's the subversive element, isn't it? It suggests that normalcy is built on a foundation of small cowardices. I mean, maybe we haven't abandoned a Hina to a violent fate, but how many times have we stayed silent in a meeting when something unethical was happening just to keep our paychecks safe?
Or watched bullying happen and just looked down at our phones because we didn't want to become the next target.
Exactly. It's the same mechanism, just lower stakes. We trade truth for safety every day. This story just takes that trade to its absolute horrifying extreme. It forces us to ask, what is my price? At what point do I sell out the truth to stay comfortable?
It totally deconstructs the idea of the innocent bystander. It argues there's no such thing. If you are there and you are silent, you are a participant.
Silence is violence, as the saying goes. But here, silence is also survival. And that's the tension. We can condemn him, but can we honestly sit here and say we wouldn't be him?
The source ends with a challenge. Read the story. Decide for yourself.
And it's not asking you to decide if the story is, good. It's asking you to audit your own soul. It wants you to run the simulation in your head and see if you actually like the result.
It's a lot to pack into such a short summary. We've got a psychological profile of a survivor, a missing woman who acts as this narrative void, and a moral exam for the reader.
It really just shows the power of flash fiction or these short narratives. You don't need 400 pages to completely shake someone up. You just need one premise that rings true.
I want to circle back to the title for a second. The guilt. We talked about the protagonist's guilt. We talked about our potential guilt as readers.
Okay.
But there's also this idea of the silence becoming louder than the truth ever was.
That's a fascinating paradox. If he had spoken the truth that night, yes, he might have been hurt. Or maybe he would have saved Hina, who knows. But the event would be over.
Right. It would be a scar.
It would be a scar, but scars heal. It would be a memory. It would be in the past.
It would be a war story he tells at a bar, maybe.
But by choosing silence, he made it eternal. Silence is a living thing. You have to feed it every day. You have to nurture it. You have to protect it from the light. It grows in the dark.
And that's why that line, "nothing seems broken," is so tragic. Because everything is breaking.
Yeah.
He's just gotten very, very good at hiding the pieces.
And the tragedy is that he probably thinks he won. He thinks he beat the system, he got the life. But he's actually a prisoner. Hina might be gone, but she is the jailer of his conscience for the rest of his life.
It makes you wonder, is a full life ever actually possible after making a trade like that? Or are you just, haunting your own house?
I think the text argues you're a ghost. You're going through the motions of living, but the vital part of you, the part that connects to truth and to other people, that part of you died in that room with Hina. You're just a shell performing the rituals of a happy man.
That is incredibly bleak, but necessary to hear, I think. We focus so much on living your best life and success, But we rarely ask what the cost of admission really was.
It serves as a warning. It tells us that the cost of silence isn't paid up front. It's paid in installments with interest for the rest of your life.
So if you're listening to this and you're feeling that discomfort, good. That means the mirror is working.
It means you're engaging with the dilemma. You aren't just consuming content, you're reflecting on it.
We've analyzed the themes, the psychology, the structure, but honestly, you need to experience that narrative void for yourself. You need to sit with that empty space where Hina should be.
You really do. It's one thing to hear us talk about it, it's another thing to let the author corner you with it.
You can find the full story at the Gumroad link provided in the source.
Yeah.
I'm going to spell this out because you'll want to bookmark it. It is layabajpi.gumroad.com/L/the-guilt.
Go read it. And when you get to the end, don't just close the tab. Sit with it for a minute. Ask yourself the hard question.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final thought. We live in a world that is just obsessed with safety. We childproof our homes, we buy insurance, we avoid risk at all costs. We are taught that safety is the ultimate good.
We mitigate danger, we optimize for security.
But this story suggests that safety can be its own kind of death. If you protect your physical safety at the expense of your moral self, what are you actually saving?
That is the question. Are you preserving a life or are you just preserving a body?
Thanks for diving deep with us today. This was a heavy one, but I think an important one. We'll see you next time.